Have a test tomorrow. You know you should study. You even plan to start early. But now it is 9 p.m. And instead of working, you are reorganizing your desk, checking messages, or watching one more video. There's a voice in your head saying you will start in a minute, but that minute keeps getting pushed back. This situation is familiar to almost everyone.
Yeah, so most people call this laziness, but that explanation sounds simple, but it is wrong. Procrastination is not a failure of effort. It is a pattern driven by how your brain manages discomfort.
So to understand this, start with what procrastination actually is. It happens when you delay something important or even though you know it will create negative consequences later. The key detail is that you are aware of the cost. You are not confused about what you should do, yet you choose something else anyway.
That leads to the real mechanism. This is not a time management issue, it is an emotional regulation issue. When you sit down to study, you are not just dealing with the material, you are dealing with how the task makes you feel. It can feel boring, difficult, frustrating, or overwhelming. It can trigger doubt about your ability or pressure to perform well. Your brain reacts to those feelings and looks for a way to reduce them quickly.
That is where avoidance comes in. When you switch to something easier, you get immediate relief. That relief reinforces the behavior. Over time, your brain learns that avoiding the task is an effective way to regulate discomfort. So you are not avoiding the work itself, you are avoiding the emotional state that comes with the work.
So once you see that, the next step is to understand why your brain prefers the short-term relief. This is explained by a concept called temporal discounting. Your brain assigns less value to rewards that happen in the future and more value to rewards that happen now.
In practical terms, studying gives you a delayed and uncertain reward, like a better grade later. Watching videos or scrolling gives you immediate stimulation and relief. Your brain compares these two options in the present moment. It does not stimulate the long term consequences in detail. It focuses on what improves how you feel right now. And the immediate option usually wins.
This also explains why deadlines change everything. As the deadline gets closer, the future consequence becomes immediate. The cost of not acting is no longer abstract. Your brain updates its priorities, and suddenly you can focus.
At this point, it is important to consider the environment you are operating in. Modern systems are built around instant gratification. Short videos, social media, and constant notifications deliver fast rewards with very little effort. Your brain adapts to this level of stimulation.
So when you switch to studying, the contrast is sharp. Studying is slower, more demanding, and less immediately rewarding. Your brain compares a higher effort, delayed payoff activity with a low effort, instant reward activity. In that comparison, the easier option often wins, especially when your energy is low.
This connects directly to how your reward system works. Dopamine is often described as a pleasure chemical, but it is more accurate to think of it as a motivation signal. It increases when your brain expects a reward.
Unpredictable rewards produce stronger responses, and that is why scrolling is so engaging. Each piece of content might be interesting, so your brain keeps anticipating the next reward. Studying does not provide a pattern. It is structured as a predictable, so it generates less of that anticipatory signal. You experience that as a lack of motivation, but it is really a difference in how your brain is being stimulated.
So, up to this point, the explanation focuses on attention and reward. But there's a deeper layer. In some cases, procrastination is not just about distraction, it's about protection.
If you do not start, you cannot fail. If you start late, you create an external reason for poor result. This protects your self-perception. Failing after full effort can feel like a statement about your ability. Failing with an excuse feels less personal.
This is why procrastination is often linked to perfectionism, fixed mindset, and imposter syndrome. If you believe your ability is limited, then effort becomes risky. Avoidance delays that risk.
For students, this effect becomes stronger because academic tasks carry emotional weight. A test is not just about knowledge, it can feel like a judgment of intelligence, discipline, or potential. There are expectations from teachers, parents, and peers, along with constant comparison.
So, as a result, studying can feel threatening rather than neutral. Your brain responds by trying to reduce that sense of threat. Avoidance becomes a short term solution, even though it creates long term problems.
All of this leads to a clear core idea. Procrastination is a conflict between your present self and your future self. Your present self prioritizes immediate emotional effort. Your future self depends on long term outcomes. This present self makes the decisions, so it tends to choose whatever reduces the discomfort factors.
So if that is the mechanism, then the solution is not simply to apply more discipline. You need to change how the task is experienced in the present moment.
One way to do this is to make rewards more immediate. When you study for a defined period, you follow it with a real break or a small reward. This creates a direct link between effort and positive feedback. Another approach is to reduce the size of the task. Large tasks feel overwhelming because they carry a high emotional load. When you break them into very small steps, the barrier to starting becomes lower.
Your environment always plays a critical role. If distractions are easily available, your brain will default to them. Creating distance from those distractions increases the likelihood that you stay focused.
And at the same time, you need to address the emotional layer directly. If you feel anxious, bored, or doubtful, acknowledging that feeling reduces its intensity. Ignoring it often makes it stronger.
Finally, self criticism tends to make the cycle worse. It increases stress and avoidance. A more effective approach is to treat procrastination as data. You observe what triggered it and adjust your strategy.
So the next time you notice yourself procrastinating, pause and observe what is happening. Instead of labeling yourself as lazy, identify the feeling you are trying to avoid.
In conclusion, that shift changes the problem from something personal to something measurable. Procrastination is not a defect, it is a predictable response from a brain that is trying to minimize discomfort in the short term. So once you understand that system, you can start to work with it instead of against it.